Welcome back to the 1% Show. If you're new here, tune in to hear me spin the yarns with authors, savants, and eccentric humans every week. Today on the 1% Show.
At that point in my life, which is quite recently actually, like a year ago, just over 6 months ago, I was pretty lost. I didn't really know where I was going. I had that really nihilistic mindset. I'm just like, oh, what's the point anyway? I'm just gonna travel. And while it was fun, I still didn't have that deep purpose, or I wasn't connected with a direction of any sort. So I was still lost.
There's this quote by Neil Strauss in the book called The Truth, and it goes something along the lines of, judge a relationship by its quality, not its quantity. You could be in a relationship for 40 years, and it could be just outright shit. But for some reason, in modern society, in some parts, it's praised like, oh, you've been together for forever. How do you do it? What's your secret? But if your relationship's shit, well then what's the point? I'd rather a 3-year relationship or 10 3-year relationships where it's actually all quality and not just quantity of living a messed up relationship,
I'm your Aussie host, Brandon Nankivell, and it's time to kick back and enjoy the show. Let's go. You can get a free audiobook by signing up for a 30-day trial. Head to brandonnankovell.com/audible. That's Brandon, B-R-A-N-D-O-N, Nankivell, N-A-N-K-I-V-E-L-L. Again, that's brandonnankovell.com/audible. I use Audible on the daily and have been for months. I use Audible to integrate reading into my daily activities like my morning walk, cooking food, and driving my car. You can do the same. Now, to be sure that Amazon doesn't bite my ass, I have to tell you guys that the 1% Show has no affiliation with Amazon. All proceeds will go directly into my pocket so I can buy myself a cup of coffee. Thanks guys, and head to brandonnankovell.com/audible to sign up for your 30-day trial and get a free audiobook.
Philip, I'm really excited to talk to you because you're in an interesting position, and a position I feel like a lot of listeners listening right now can relate to. So could you just give us a brief overview of who you are and at what stage in your success journey are you at the moment?
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, really happy to be here. Keen to have a chat. So my position, my success journey, I guess you could say, is I'm just getting started. So I've been doing YouTube for about 8 months overall. I've been writing my first book, which is nearly complete, but I'm still in kind of that stage of trying to figure out what the fuck I'm trying to do. So a lot of people have their niches kind of narrowed down. They know exactly what topic they're about, but my channel is more holistic at the moment. I'm really into stoicism. I'm really into health, fat loss, those kind of things. That's what I'm trained in. That's what my career is. I'm a personal trainer. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what to do.
All right, cool, man. And you're straight out of New Zealand, yeah?
Yeah. So I live in Wellington, New Zealand, capital, right at the bottom of the world. Just graduated university 6 months ago, studied biology.
Okay, yeah. Interesting stuff. All right, then, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewind. Please take us back to when you were 14 years old. What was life looking like for you?
14 years old. Okay. I'll run you through my day. So I'd wake up probably half an hour after school was supposed to start. I'd make my way to school, be really, really, really tired, wouldn't listen to a thing in class, get home, jump on the computer, and then just game until about 12 o'clock at night, and then go to sleep and repeat. So that was probably my life when I was 14 years old.
What games were you playing out of interest?
RuneScape.
You are kidding. You played RuneScape.
No way. Yeah. You either get the response of, holy shit, I played that as well, or what the fuck is that? It's one of the two.
Oh, man. No, let's have a quick conversation. Let's have a quick conversation about RuneScape. Sorry for cutting you off. I got so much energy. What were your stats, bro?
I was I stopped in 2012, so I'm not sure what the levels kind of progressed to, but I was level 138, ahead of quite a few 99s. That's actually how I started my first YouTube video ever. I was putting on PKing videos and all that shit. Yeah. What about you?
Man, you have to link me to them after this call. That is super interesting. For the listeners listening in.
Pretty cringe.
Yeah, I don't know. There's two sides to it, man. I actually, when I look back at RuneScape, and this is kind of speaking about video games in general, I actually it could be argued that it's just this dopamine high and it's an escape from the world and reality and a waste of time and all that shit. But when I look back at my life playing RuneScape as a child, as I'm sure you know, it's a fucking addictive game, but it's a whole lot of fun, man. It takes you into another immersive world. And when I look back, I don't regret any of it. I don't know about you, but I don't regret a thing, and I am not ashamed of it.
Yeah, like now that I kind of look back onto it, I'm happy with where I'm progressing now. So that stage of my life couldn't have been that bad if I'm kind of content with where I'm going right now, you know. So I was funny you say that because I was having a conversation with Mario Tomic on a Skype call like this. And we were talking about whether people have to go through kind of rough patches with dependencies and addictions in their life to become successful people. And he would say that a lot of the successful people he knows have gone through rough times like that. So even though in the moment I really enjoyed it, at the end of the day, it was kind of like a dependency that pulled you out of the real world. But at the same time, when you're doing that gaming shit and you're going like 12, 16 hours a day and going hard on it, in some ways you are mastering the aspect of hard work and understanding that nothing comes easy. And even though it's a game, you can apply that to the real world. And I think that's the benefit, I guess, I got out of it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I can resonate with so much with what you're saying. Even video games in general, like what you can learn about economy, like economics in RuneScape is incredible. Like when you learn to merch products. So, you know, this might not mean much to people listening in right now, but RuneG plate legs. I used to like fucking bust out on those, buying for like 1.1 million virtual coins and then selling for like 1.2. And you just cycle that through. And then eventually you can get like employees working for you, chopping wood and then selling them at a higher price than you buy them for. And man, it's just like the fucking real world in a sense. Like you can apply these lessons.
Yeah, definitely. And also like scamming, it's the same as the real world. Like trimming people's armor, same shit as like robbing people in real life.
Exactly. And there's humans behind the screen playing this video game, and
well, that's what it is. It's just an expression of people, right? So of course it's going to be similar to real life. Yeah,
exactly.
That's interesting. Someone should write a book on that topic.
Fuck yeah. It almost could be me. I was so tempted to create a video on my channel about this exact subject, taking lessons from RuneScape or maybe more in general video games so people know what the fuck I'm talking about, and then show the life lessons you can take from it. I haven't pounced on it because I've got so many ideas all the time, but there you go. So it's just interesting. I believe, not to steal your spotlight here, Philip, but I believe when I get excited, I do this. Oh no, where's my trail of thought going? You know, I believe, I forgot what the quote is, but every person you meet is actually interesting. And if you don't think they're interesting, then the problem is not them, but it's you. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. I truly believe that, because at the start of this call, I'll be honest, I'm like, with all my podcast guests, normally they have a niche all carved out for themselves. And so before we actually started recording this call, I'm thinking, all right, so where are we going to take this conversation if, you know, you, Philip, in your position, you're still working out what the fuck you want to do and all that. It's just amazing that if you open up to someone, you know, you can get conversations like this. So I don't know where I'm going with that, but I just think it's a wonderful thing.
Quickly, I think that like there's a lot of conflicting thoughts I have when I'm researching marketing and how to grow your channel and stuff, because when you look at the standard marketing advice, it's like be very niche and do it this way. But then in saying that, if you're that niche, you might form a channel where if you start to be more genuine and more authentic and you start to do what's more interesting to you, which naturally is going to be something much more wider and holistic, you're going to get criticized by the people that are viewing your stuff. But if you start off more genuine and you're more wider and you're more holistic in the content you put out, and it's more about your personality and just interacting on various topics with your morals and stuff, then it might take longer to grow, but at the end of it, it's going to be more fruitful and more rewarding. At least that's how I kind of see it. But at the same time, you want to grow really quickly, so that's kind of where the conflict comes.
Yes, an interesting viewpoint indeed. I'm actually, not to steal the spotlight again, but I'm so excited because I resonate with you. I'm starting to veer towards podcasting, so I've already done 13 episodes now, and I could make a separate channel, but I feel like I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to do me, as Gary Vaynerchuk says, do you, right? So I'm actually putting podcasts straight onto my whiteboard channel. Now, the podcasts don't really have anything to do with the whiteboard channel, and I'm starting to get into interesting topics like psychedelics and things. So we're sort of like going off the grid. I'm actually getting away from this.
But that's the thing, man. Like, if whiteboard channel with interviews and discussions isn't a normal thing, make it a normal thing.
Yeah.
You know, be the founder of that normal thing, and then it will probably click on. I mean, if the content's adding value in some way and someone's getting something from it, then I think at the end of the day, it's going to grow, right? And if not, at least you had fun doing it. So it doesn't really matter.
For sure, bro. I mean, whatever content you come out with, whether it's new or not, there's always going to be people that leave you and people that stay with you. So as long as you do you, you're fine, honestly.
Sure. As cliche as it sounds, right? But cliche.
It's cliche, but it's fucking true. It's fucking true. Yeah, man. All right. So moving on. What else have I got for you? Yeah. So around when you were 18, had all that from RuneScape. Anyway. So from 18 years old, what was life looking like then? In terms of the direction your life was going, what was going through your mind at the age of 18, just coming out of high school?
Right. I like these questions. It's cool kind of going into your past because I don't really do it that much. But when I was 18, I was kind of stopping RuneScape. I was in that phase where I kind of got my first girlfriend and I'm like, okay, maybe there's more to life than chopping wood. And that was kind of the stage where I was finishing high school and I was applying to university. So I guess half of my experience as an 18-year-old was spent in high school, but the more interesting part was going to a different city, moving 2 hours south here where I am right now to Wellington and starting university, starting a new life, not knowing anyone. So although I didn't really have a very clear-cut direction, not that I do now, but it's a bit more clear, things were looking up. I was more optimistic. I was more curious about what life had to offer as I was maturing and becoming more of an adult, I guess you could say. So yeah, more optimistic, different, lots of new experiences, lots of new people, just a massive mindfuck.
I can imagine. Just on, I don't know how open you are about your relationship, but with all my guests, I say feel free to be as open or as close as you want. It's completely up to you. I personally just talk about fucking anything. But I'm curious. Cool. I'm curious about your relationship. How did that happen for you?
Okay, so I needed a date for a ball. So I'd never gone to the high school. So I went to like a boys only school. And while you can imagine going to a guys only school and just gaming, you don't have many like interactions with chicks, right? The only chicks I had interactions with were like characters on RuneScape, which were probably dudes. So, so yeah, I needed a date for a ball. And I think it was through a mutual friend. I met this girl called I shouldn't use her real name, Amy. Met up with her. We got along. We went to the ball, asked her out, got a girlfriend, and then that ended when I went to university.
Right. So what have you learned from that experience being in that relationship?
What have I learned from the relationship? Don't get too attached. Shit, man. When you're 18, everything matters so much. Like so much. But as you grow older, you look back to when you're younger and you're like, holy shit, that was not a big deal. But I think I wouldn't have learned that without experiencing it. So looking back on the relationship, it's kind of cringe to look back on, but at the same time, it was me in the past, so it's nothing to be ashamed of. But just really, really fucking lovey-dovey, like, oh, I love you, like the only girl in the world, me, holy shit. All that. I think we've all been through that at some point, especially in the teenage years, right? Love hormones all over the place.
Yes. I'm so glad you say that. It makes me feel a little bit better. I was just a bit like you.
It's just to not say that is just to exclude yourself from being normal. That's part of the human condition, right?
Definitely, yeah. So for listeners listening in, if you've experienced that, don't worry. It's normal. We've all been there. We're fucking attached. Maybe
if you're experiencing it right now, like, enjoy the ride. If you're experiencing it right, enjoy the ride. Because even though you might look back on it in the future and it's all cringe, it's pretty fun in the moment. So
definitely. There's this quote by Neil Strauss in the book called The Truth, and it goes something along the lines of, judge a relationship by its quality, not its quantity. You could be in a relationship for 40 years and it could be just outright shit. But for some reason in modern society, in some parts, it's praised like, oh, you've been together for like forever. How do you do it? What's your secret? But if your relationship's shit, well then what's the point? I'd rather a 3-year relationship or 10 3-year relationships where it's actually all quality and not just quantity of living a messed up relationship,
Yeah, and I think in a world that's becoming increasingly more socially isolated, really genuine relationships like that are so important to have. I mean, like, it's a strange world that we live in right now, and this is something I explore in the book I'm writing, and I look at a country like Japan, one of the most technologically advanced countries, one of the most connected in terms of the internet, and one of the most socially isolated countries which embrace a really like introverted nature. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but with kind of suppressing people's naturally extroverted nature comes increased alcohol consumption. And in Japan, they actually did a survey. In Japan, out of all countries, is the most accepting of drinking large amounts of alcohol, which is really strange, and since they have some of the highest internet users in the world. So going back to what we're talking about, relationships, like human touch, having that real genuine interaction is so fucking important, and we're missing it more and more and more on a weekly basis as we kind of go into this virtual reality. Yeah.
You haven't heard of the term intoxicology, have you?
Nah, what's that?
Yeah, just to bounce off you, because it's this term, I forgot what book I read it in. It might have been, it was Chasing the Scream by Johann Hardy. Really interesting book on the war on drugs. And there's this guy who wrote a book a while ago who suggested that, our three human desires are sex, eat food, and drink water. Maybe there's a social desire as well. But, he brings forth the idea that perhaps the fourth human desire is either intoxicating ourselves or more so getting into altered states. So, look at everyone. We're drinking alcohol, we're smoking nicotine, we're smoking marijuana, people are doing psilocybin, people are doing DMT, tons of drugs, and we're all trying to get into these altered states. I don't know about everyone, but it's just a supposed idea. So maybe that somehow ties in with an explanation for everyone taking these drugs. And in Japan, they're all drinking alcohol, and they've even got these clubs over there where a lot of women actually pay, $200 at brothels, but without the sex. So they just pay there to go to socialize. Isn't that incredible?
Total cafes, I think they're called. I saw that on Vice.
Yeah, that's the one, dude.
Yeah, it's strange. I was actually, I met this really cool Dutch chick the other week, and we're kind of going on a date, right? We're getting some food, and she was talking about spicy food because we're eating spicy food, and she was saying she read a book which she couldn't remember the name of, and the author was talking about exactly what you're saying, that even spicy food in itself is a form of altering your consciousness. So I think it's important to firstly define what altering your consciousness is. What is it? Aren't we always in a state that's just an altered consciousness? I mean, if I drink water, I'm more hydrated, I'm more energized, so I'm experiencing a different state of consciousness in some ways. I don't know, what's the basis for not being altered?
Yeah, man, I've just been having some conversations with my buddy this morning, and it always comes to this topic of what consciousness is and shit. Philosophers have been trying to work this shit out for centuries, dude. There isn't really a normal. Reality is subjective to all of us, right? We've all sensed things in a different way, including animals as well.
Yeah, it's really strange, really strange. But I guess there's different levels of altering your state if you eat a fuckload of mushrooms. It's I think it was Terence McKenna. He postulated that theory, the stoned ape theory, and that's how we gained our intelligence. Right? So the monkeys ate magic mushrooms and they tripped out, and then we started to become a bit more smart, which is interesting to think about. Of course, there's not much evidence on that even being true, but it's fascinating to think about that being possible, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that ties back to my point about this thing called intoxicology, where our fourth desire might be getting into these altered states. Even that same guy that did all this research on these animals fucking getting into altered states of consciousness, there was even dolphins that they bite on pufferfish. Because the pufferfish excretes some kind of, I don't know, toxic gas or some shit that gives these dolphins a little high, so they start doing weird shit. And there's tons more, elephants on acid and all sorts of things, man.
What elephants? How do they do that?
Well, there's this book called, go on.
Someone gave an elephant a tab.
I think so, yeah. I think they gave the elephants LSD, and I think this is one, now don't quote me here, I could be wrong, but I've got a book sitting next to me here, Elephants on Acid by Alex Bose or whatever, and yeah, apparently they fed this elephant LSD or some shit, and then I think it actually died, and which other people who are anti-drug now use that as an argument that, LSD is gonna kill everyone, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah, but how the fuck did it die? It just because
I think
because acid can't kill itself, right? If it's not in ridiculous amounts.
Yeah, I haven't heard of anyone that's died from overdosing on fucking psilocybin or LSD or whatever, from the substance itself. But I think with the elephant, they just fucking mega dosed it with a shit ton, and I think something happened there. But I won't go into it because I don't know all the details and I don't want to spread false information here. So yeah, where were we? We've gone all sorts of places.
Off the rails. Yeah. I don't know. What was another question?
Don't worry, bro. So we'll keep moving. The last thing I talked about was, when you were 18 and what your life direction was looking like. So now I want to ask you, when you came out of university or even in your final year, what was going through your head at that time in terms of direction of your life? Just coming out of college.
Just coming out of college, towards the end of my last semester was spent on an overseas exchange. So I went on an exchange to Canada, of all places. So I was an hour and a half south of Toronto in a place called London, the fake London, as we called it. And yeah, that was kind of my end to it. So my end was being traveling and being completely lost. So I'd kind of packed my entire life into a backpack, which I still have here. And I was like, fuck it, I'm never coming home after this exchange. I'm just going to leave. So I had my whole life in there, and I traveled around Europe solo for a while before the exchange. So at that point in my life, which is quite recently, actually, like a year ago, just over 6 months ago, I was pretty lost. I didn't really know where I was going. I had that really nihilistic mindset. I'm just like, oh, what's the point anyway? I'm just gonna travel. And while it was fun, I still didn't have that deep purpose, or I wasn't connected with a direction of any sort. So I was still lost. But I guess that's where I was towards the end of university.
Okay, yeah. So is it still the same right now, or has it improved slightly?
No, definitely not the same. Yeah, so throughout the last year, especially as I've been working on this book for the last year, it's really helped me find a purpose. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, what the fuck am I going to crush today? And that's kind of the attitude I'm developing more and more and more as I'm not taking YouTube as seriously yet. So I plan to after I publish this book, but so much of my time is just going into re-editing and like proofreading and going over this thing that I don't really have time to go 100%, pedal to the metal on YouTube. But once this book is done, then I'm going to kind of put myself out there 100% on the online sphere.
Cool, man. I also noticed on your YouTube channel that you've interviewed a few pretty big figures in the self-development space. One I saw was RSD Max. So in terms of where you're at now, it takes big thinking to reach out, especially a channel of your size, about 2,000, to reach out to a guy that's, I don't know, got 90,000 followers and shit. I'm just wondering what led you to have that mindset, to actually have the balls to go out and ask RSD Max to be on your channel. Like, that's a pretty big achievement, man.
Yeah, well, I don't see it as an achievement in itself, and that might sound full of ego, but I was having a conversation with a friend, I'm not going to name him, obviously, who does YouTube as well, and he was saying, you're interviewing people with such big names. I want to do the same, but I don't want to bother them. Mm-hmm. And that's just the wrong mindset to have. I mean, I just think of it like this. They're just human beings. Like, at one point, they were in the position you are now, so clearly they understand what that's like. No one gets there with luck. So if you're just coming with them to have a discussion, to add some type of value to their lives, you're coming at it with confidence, just treating them like a human being, then, I mean, not all of them are going to be keen. And that's not necessarily like an insult to you. It's just because they have busy lives. But the point is, to anyone watching right now, if you're in a similar position and you want to reach out to bigger figures, just do it. I mean, you send out 100 emails, then you're going to get a few replies. Well, what's the point? Like, you think someone's going to take an email that you sent to someone saying, I want to interview for my channel to help my audience, and I'm going to screenshot it and put it on their Facebook and be like, look at this loser trying to become successful. Like, that's never going to happen. So, yeah, why not?
Love the way of thinking. It sounds like you got onto that pretty fast. It took me a while to learn that, actually, a long time. It's only really a recent mind shift I've had. So that's awesome, dude.
It's working for you great. Your channel's blowing up now,
Yeah, I see you going far too with that mindset that you've just discussed. It's highly beneficial. My next set of questions, these are the questions Tim Ferriss asks, which I often borrow for these podcasts because they deliver so much value in most cases. So we'll kick them off. If I don't say anything in response, don't worry. That means I'm listening, and I'm just going to pump on to the next question. So you all good with that?
Yeah.
Sweet as. Cool. So when you think of the word successful, who's the first person that comes to mind, and why?
Tim Ferriss, because we were just talking about him.
Good answer. What is something you believe in that other people think is insane?
Another cliche. Anything is possible, right? Whatever you put your mind to, if you genuinely believe it, I do think you can make it a possibility.
Love it. What is the book you've given most as a gift? And if you haven't gifted books, then what would be the book that's impacted you most?
I'd say kind of like the first book that I really took in. Like, we all read stuff in our lives, but I think there's a certain stage where we really start to resonate with the book. And I'm not sure whether that's just because I developed linguistically and with my verbal acuity and stuff, or whether it just came at the right time in my life. But it was definitely The Art of Power by Nietzsche. I can't say his name. He's like a Vietnamese Buddhist monk. So that book was really good. Yeah, The Art of Power. So it's kind of like a different approach to power, not in the sense of like ruling over people, but in terms of the power you have over yourself, mindfulness, all that kind of stuff.
What is your favorite documentary or movie?
I really like North Korean documentaries, like on Vice. They're really interesting. That's something I've always just had a weird fascination with. So when it's like really late at night and I should be sleeping, occasionally I'll chuck on one of those North Korean documentaries, and it's just interesting to kind of like humble yourself and have this struggle that they go through, not necessarily to feel better about yourself, but just to understand that some pretty fucked up shit happening out there while we're living so comfortably in the Western world, you know? So North Korean documentaries, definitely.
What are your morning rituals, and what do the first 60 minutes of your day generally look like?
First 60 minutes of my day are wake up, and then I will often do negative visualization. So this is a Stoic practice where it's like practical pessimism. So you'll intentionally bring upon thoughts where you recognize the possibility of you losing assets, losing family members. So I'll either think about this or watch it on video or watch a story about someone who lost their loved ones. And it seems like a really extreme and eccentric thing to do, but the reason the Stoics did this in the first place is to raise their gratitude and appreciation for what they do, for what we do have right now. So a lot of things in life, assets, materialistic things, even family members, friends, are all out of our control. So kind of thinking like that in the morning and purposely being pessimistic like that, but remaining unattached to it, sets you up with the right mindset for the day. And after that, I'll do some like stretching, yoga, have a cold shower, wake the fuck up, take a shit, I guess. I won't eat breakfast. I'm big into fasting. And then after that, I'll have a coffee, and straight away I'll get into some writing as I'm most creative at that point of the day.
Cool as, man. I just want to briefly touch on cold showers. How did you get into cold showers, and how did you get over the fear barrier of hopping in there?
I don't know. I don't remember the day I started them. I love the ocean. So I always loved the ocean growing up and stuff. I'm originally from Greece, so I spent a lot of time at the ocean there, swimming. And I was always a fan of just that moment where you're just like, fuck it, I'm just going to run and jump into the ocean. And it was kind of that breaking that discomfort that always resonated with me subconsciously when I was a little kid. And I really forgot how I started cold showers as a daily practice, the one I speak about now. But there never really was a fear barrier, I guess you could say, because I always understood that you feel better afterwards. So I'm not really sure if I'm the right person to answer that question.
Okay.
But I advocate them so much. Yeah.
Sure.
They're really interesting.
And so do you feel like the main benefit is purposely putting yourself in a position of discomfort so that you can grow from it? Is that your main motivation?
Yeah, so that's a big part of Stoicism as well. In terms of evolution, this is something I'm writing about. Supposedly, the reason why cold showers make us happier and stuff, not on a hormonal level, is because there would have been instances in the past, for example, let's say you're on a riverbank and the river's really cold and there's a fruit tree across the riverbank that you have to get to. Those brief moments where you run through the cold are the equivalent, I guess you could say, of the cold shower. And while it may seem kind of silly and absurd to do the cold shower to replace that, where else are we getting such a similar experience that's ingrained in us genetically? So that's kind of the main reason I do it. I think that all these activities like cold showers and meditation, all these things are kind of replicating our natural state free of this technological internet kind of age.
Cool, man. What is the best or most worthwhile investment you've made? Now that can be an investment of money, time, or energy. And how did you decide to make that investment?
I was going to say knowledge, like Ty Lopez.
Knowledge.
I think time to myself. I think that's probably, now that I think about it, I've never really been asked that question, but I think time to myself, and not that time with friends is bad, but knowing when it's right or wrong to go out, or like go out and waste time when you know you should be working. So having more kind of having boundaries for yourself. That's the best way to kind of phrase it. So knowing when it's right or wrong to have fun, setting boundaries for yourself and sticking to them.
Sweet as. Do you have a quote you live your life by or think about often?
No, I don't really have a specific quote.
No problem. Okay, so where can we find you on social media, Philip?
Just YouTube for now. Yeah. I mean, you can feel free to add me on my personal Facebook to whoever's watching if you want to. I'll chat to you there if you send me a message. But YouTube's probably the main place I'm on social media right now.
Yep. So could you verbalize that for us? Like, do you have a link title or what we type in?
Oh yeah, just type in Philip with one L, so Philip, and then last name, bit of a doozy. Ghezelbash. So Philip Ghezelbash. Find me there.
All right, sweet as. And I'll make sure to leave links in the description of wherever this podcast is distributed. Thanks again for coming on the call, Philip. It's been an absolute pleasure. You never know what you can, the topics you come across like we have in this video is just incredible. So I really appreciate your time, your most valuable asset. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, that was awesome. Cheers, man. See you guys later.
If you'd like 3 gold nuggets from the book I'm currently reading, packed into a short, entertaining, weekly email, then head to brandonnankivell.com/subscribe. This is also the best way to interact with me and keep up with what I'm doing. Again, head to brandonnankivell.com/subscribe. As usual, thank you for listening, my friends. I release new episodes every week. Make sure you don't miss one by subscribing. It's super easy and means a lot to me. Go to iTunes, search for The 1% Show, and click subscribe. Once again, I'm your host, Brandon Nankivell, and I'll see you in the next episode.